Well, welcome back, Tom, to Men's Couch, a show about men's mental health, community, friendship, and anything else that I find interesting to talk about. So yeah, I'm excited to have you back on. I'm excited. I love your content. I love your community, your other brothers. I feel like it's just so amazing that you've made a community for men to just come together and share their stories of sexuality and share just things that they have wrestled with that they have kept hidden. I think that's just amazing, and I definitely see that this community is growing. I also like the reels that you have been posting. It's just so like I'm learning so much from that, just about like the side B community and just about people, believers that are in the LGBTQ community. So I am just loving every post that you made.
I'm glad somebody out there appreciates my reels, so thank you. Reels and shorts, wherever these things get posted. Yeah, thanks for having me back. I enjoyed getting to chat with you last time about my journey, my story, and navigating faith, sexuality, masculinity. It's one of my favorite things to do, whether I'm talking to another person like yourself or whether I'm just talking to a camera, hoping that somebody out there is appreciating it. So thanks, Micah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know who Peter Volk is.
I do, yes. Had him
Yeah.
on my podcast and met him a couple times now. Yeah.
I literally I had him on a few
I
weeks
saw
ago.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an amazing conversation. I like just talking to him is making me feel called to LGBTQ ministry and ministering to believers that have same-sex attraction or identify as gay. That's something that I feel called to, not just like as a therapist, but just like ministering to that population because I feel like the church doesn't really. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what your experience is, but my experience is the church kind of doesn't really focus too much on that. And I asked him, I was like, well, I'm straight. How am I supposed to, like, can I still minister to this population? I have a passion for it because, like, a lot of my friends and people that I dearly love can sometimes feel like secluded from the church. And he said, well, yeah, like, this is awesome that you want to do this. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think LGBT, SSA people, I think they need both. They need people that are like them, that kinda know firsthand what they're going through and what the experience is like to be attracted to the same sex and to navigate a faith identity within that. But then we need people on the outside of that too, who may not understand firsthand what that looks like or what that feels like, but to be able to support us and walk with us and enter into that tension with us. Like I have seen tremendous value from both people within my Your Other Brothers and now Your Other Sisters communities, but then also like my local church where I live here in Asheville and other local iterations of believers where I've been across the years. Like I need both. Like there are pros and cons of like relating to one versus the other, but ultimately we
yeah.
all need I think we all need different types of people pouring into us and other people need different types of people pouring into them. And so I'd like to think it's reciprocal. It's not just a one-way relationship.
Oh, that's amazing. I don't know because I felt like, well, I don't like struggle with this. Can I still, like be in community or just either like minister? But no, he said, like, yeah. And I think like now, like this month is a very and this is important month for me because of my friends and just seeing like how much like pride is important to them. It for me, I get to be with them even though we might have like different views, the importance for me is that I show up and I show up to support them. And I'm not, I think sometimes like Christians can sometimes get in the weeds of, well, I need to be just fully against pride and fully against everything that it represents. And people have their different convictions, but my conviction is to love someone is to understand who they are. That means just how they identify, what their sexual story is, and that encompasses just asking questions about what they believe instead of just for me like I'm because I like asking questions in general, but asking questions shows that okay, this is a person who I love. I cannot assume what the meaning of pride is to someone. I have to ask what pride means to them. And I feel like mine's is a little bit of a different posture than other believers because some of the other believers that I know like sometimes are like, well, this is all debauchery, and I don't know. How do you feel about that? That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I forget if we talked about this on our last podcast or not. I have so many of these types of conversations, so I might be repetitive, but I think there is a tendency among men, especially, probably women too, but particularly among men to want to fix things and want to be like this, to find the solution and
Mhm.
apply the solution. So like if you're struggling with something, whether it's something sexuality related or otherwise, addiction related or what have you, like, okay, what's the problem? What do we need to do to fix it? And let's fix it and let's do it rather than be
Yeah.
like, what if there is no solution? Like just using sexuality as an example, I've only ever been
Mhm.
attracted to men, and I'm not going to discount whatever God wants to do because I believe in a God that literally raises people from the dead. So if I believe in that God, can He change my sexuality if He wants to? Of course He can. I believe that, but do I also think that's likely to happen? You know, how likely is it that someone's going to be raised from the dead? That hasn't happened too
Yeah.
often throughout history. So so that's like an example I use of like navigating the tension. Like there might be somebody out there. There probably are lots of people out there that would say, "Oh, Tom, if you just did this, 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 and this, maybe you wouldn't be completely, or maybe you would be completely attracted to the opposite sex, or maybe you would like start to take steps in that direction." But I
Yeah.
would then say, what if that's not the case though? What if, yeah, no amount of prayer or getting on dating apps, going on dates with women, or what have you, is going to change that. Like, are you still willing to be in relationship with me? Are you still willing
Yeah.
to enter into the tension of something that isn't going away, something that isn't fixed, something that I believe as I live my life as a single celibate man, like that's the road that I feel like God's calling me to live within my sexuality. So as a
Mm.
fellow believer, especially as a fellow man who might have a tendency to want to fix things, like are you willing to remain in the unfixed status that I am in right now and just walk with me and be with me. So that's like one thought I had when you were talking about that as far as being in relation as a straight person, being in relationship with people who are either queer or same sex attracted. And then the other one, which I think we can definitely dive into more, is like what does pride mean? Is pride
Yeah.
synonymous with debauchery, or is
That's
there
what
a
I
more nuanced definition about that?
yeah, I've heard that, and I'm just like, my own conviction is yes. I don't believe it's debauchery. It all depends on what. Yeah, I feel like we have to ask what pride means to the individual that you care about or a community. What does pride mean to them? Instead of just assuming in our what we see, coming to drawing conclusions of okay, pride means this, but we haven't really asked, okay, what does pride mean to that person? Why is it important? And I think those are important questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I think does debauchery happen at pride events? Sure, but
Absolutely.
debauchery happens in lots of
Like,
places too. It's not isolated
anywhere.
to pride. Yeah, yeah. I think so. If you want to find debauchery, you can probably find it in a lot of different places, pride or elsewhere. But yeah, I would then challenge people to kind of take a step back and ask yourselves like, why is this being developed? Why is this celebrated in the month of June largely here in America and other months around the world? Like why is it necessary? Why is it something that people get excited about? Because are there people glorifying sin, engaging in debauchery? Perhaps, but I would also say that this sort of pride that when I find the redeemable aspect of pride, it's not
Mhm.
like a celebration of debauchery or it's not a celebration of like a middle finger to God. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of survival. It's a celebration of existence because this is something that I just feel like the church is completely blind to. And I throw myself in this, like growing up in Christian education and being a part of a Southern Baptist church in my youth. And just, I never heard about LGBT issues or LGBT history or Stonewall. I just learned about Stonewall even just a few years ago here in my 30s. Like I didn't know any of the history of the LGBT community going back to the 60s and 70s. And the fact that just the reality of it is that LGBT youth are significantly, not just a little bit, but significantly more likely to take their own lives or to be
Yeah.
homeless, and particularly trans youth. That's another conversation. But LGBT people in general, just they have a lot more cards stacked against them dealing with mental health and anxiety and depression and suicidality. And the fact that you can then reach adulthood or reach a point where this is no longer a struggle or this is no longer something that you worry is going to take your own life. Like I never struggled with
Mhm.
suicidality myself, but I struggled significantly with anxiety and my mental health growing up as a closeted teenager and just wondering
Mhm.
if I could even ever tell another soul about myself and or if this is something in the church that I would just have to stuff. I literally thought for 19 years that this is something I would stuff and never talk about with anybody. And so
Yeah,
so
that's
there's an
sad.
there's an element of pride that if we're trying to find the redeemable, which I encourage all Christians to do wherever you look out the window, like where's the redeemable happening? The fact that LGBT people have a strong sense of chosen family, which is something the church is all about,
That's
like
amazing, like,
being
I feel
able
like
to find other people that you would use language of family to connect with them
that's I feel like
and
that's just, like,
celebrating
the
being alive.
I think that's, like, just the missing piece of what modern America needs, especially, like, if you're maybe someone like me who doesn't totally really like, marriage isn't like, "Well, I really wanna go to marriage," like, not everyone is like, wants to do marriage, and I feel like people like, I think that's what, that I see as far as just what I see about the, LGBTQ community is that family the definition of family isn't the mom and dad and, like, the 2 children like it was in the
Right.
'50s, but yeah. So, I did I cut you off?
No, I mean, that's just, like, one of the things that I point to when I look at something that's redeemable, about the
Yeah,
LGBT community, about pride, because because again, I think that's something when Christians are quick to point out, "Oh, pride is one of the 7 deadly sins," or it's like, it's this big, evil, nefarious thing. Like, yes, there is that definition, but do you not know that there are other definitions of pride? Like, can you not be
yeah,
proud? Like, I always use this example. Can you not be proud of your son because he accomplished something, or not even because he accomplished something, just because he's your son? Can you not be proud of him? Can you not be proud of your sports team for winning the championship, or proud of your favorite celebrity who won the Oscar? Or can you not be proud of yourself, just self-esteem, not in a self-righteous way, but just a healthy self-image sort of way? Can you not be proud? So like there is a definitively positive definition of pride. Like yes, there is a negative definition as well,
yeah.
but to say that pride, the month of June, or LGBT associations with pride is all the negative definition and not none of the positive definition is a little silly, or it's a lot silly actually. So,
Yeah, I think that's why it's like, number 1, that's why it's important to definitely, like, okay, like, be curious of what does this mean to my friend or what does this mean to my family member? Because if you see someone that's like, "Oh, I'm going to go to a pride festival," what is that that's obviously, like, pride is important, but it's always about, like, why. And another thing that I've heard about that Peter Valk talked about is closet trauma and how, like, being at like, so stuck in a closet for, like, years and years, like, you develop things like anxiety and depression and those like traumatic effects that pride is symbolizes. Okay, I'm coming out of that. I'm overcoming the trauma of having parts of my identity so suppressed for like years and years. And I think that's just amazing to be able to just step outside of that and develop a sense of self-acceptance. And really, I feel like that's where really God meets us is where we're like, okay, like this part of me identify as this, or this is a part of me that I have been suppressing for years and years. But now it's the time to fully come into full love that God has for me. And I think that's like the redeemable aspect of pride is where we take pride in like, okay, God still loves me regardless. And it's just like really celebrating that and being able to accept, like fully accept all his love instead of just, okay, he only loves me if I'm straight or he only loves me if I get married.
mm,
It's like he loves me regardless. And I think that's what the redeemable aspect of pride it can be.
yeah, I like that phrase. I mean, I don't like the concept, but a closet trauma. Like
Yeah, that's what
I just feel
Peter.
like I like how it's said, because it's like for 19 years I didn't necessarily know at the time that I was going through trauma. That's one of the like sinister aspects of trauma, is that oftentimes you don't even realize that you're going through it, or you don't like
Mhm,
it's like subconsciously happening but not consciously happening. It's really hard to describe. Like I was bullied and I was isolated and I had this sexuality that I knew but I didn't know. I didn't like have the language for it, like at
mhm,
growing up in Christian schools and a Christian family and churches where it wasn't discussed or talked about. So like now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to hide myself everywhere I went. I had to constantly hide myself, and that takes a toll to go through my entire elementary, middle school, high school, and even into college a little bit. Like to go through all those years hiding and pushing aside this part of myself, like that takes conscious effort whether I
Yeah.
realized it at the like it was something that I had to put energy toward. And so there is I completely understand. Like I think there's a criticism of pride events, just to go to a
Mhm.
tangible event where people are like, it is so ostentatious or it's so showy or it's just so absurd or so just like way to the other extreme. And I, I'm a introverted person. Like I just don't like being ostentatious in general. Like I prefer to be like I'm wearing a faded grayish blue shirt. Like this is about as brightly colored as I get, so like I generally like morphing with the crowd. I don't really like standing out.
Uh,
So that's just my personality, but, like, I completely understand, like, swinging to the opposite direction when when you've shoved some part of yourself down for so many years to finally just, like, let it out and release. Like, I have
yeah.
so much empathy for people, whether it's their first time going to an event like that or whether they've gone, like, 40, 50 times, like, to be able to just release this tension that you've held in for so long. Like, I have such an empathy for people who are finally have the freedom to start to breathe again regardless of, yeah, whatever our theological disagreements are. It's just like
Yeah.
the human notion of just releasing tension and releasing this shame is beautiful, and it's a necessary thing for survival.
Yeah, I think that's why it can be, like, a month of, like, celebration for a lot of people is because they've, like, helped, and suppressed so many parts of their identity that they're coming to the full acceptance of who they are, and also just this idea of not fixing their identity, which you mentioned before. And oh, wait, oh, yeah, a question came back to me. I wonder, like, if whether you're growing up in a conservative religious background or, like, just growing up, like, have you seen people, like, same-sex attracted men, how they have, like, how they hid their sexuality? Whether that's, like have you seen people, like, try to get married or, like, try to I don't know, I'm just curious.
I mean, in my community in particular, there's such a cross section of men. We're mostly single, but there are a few married guys as well. And I think most of the guys' spouses are aware now of their
Mhm,
sexuality, but there's a mix of guys who got married and didn't tell their wives because maybe they hadn't come to grips with their sexuality themselves yet. And so it was only after they got married that they told their wives about their sexuality, and then there's some that knew right away, or not right away, but going into marriage told them about it. And so we have such a
mhm.
a mixture of men who are on both sides of that, of uh, of their openness about their sexuality with their spouses. And then, amongst all the single people in our community too, there's such a cross section of people who are on the one extreme end, like me, completely open about my sexuality, and then on the complete opposite end, completely, I mean, closeted is a hard word to use, but just for practical reasons, whether it's their family or their career or their ministry or whatever their situation is, that it's just not a safe situation for them to be able to
I
open up
see.
and talk about their sexuality. So there's room for everybody in between. There's no right or wrong way. I always tell people there's no right or wrong way to do this. Like you have an extreme case like me that's written a couple books and goes on all these podcasts and talks about like, so I'm not going to be every person's story. I'm going to be probably a vast minority of stories out there, but then you have everyone in between too, who are selectively open with people, or like gradually just becoming more open as the years go by. Like I love it's been cool to be in this seat for over a decade now with my men's community because I can think of a few people right off the top of my head that they went from a place of not being open to anyone, and then through the
Mhm.
years I've seen them gradually open up to their parents or open up to their pastor or open up to their best friends or open up to this person and that person. And so it's been cool to like have this vantage point and see people reach different points of growth, personal growth and comfortability and overcoming shame one conversation at a time. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if I asked you, but when did you decide to, like, tell people, about your sexuality?
When I was 19, I went through some hard things and felt like I needed to tell my parents. That was like step 1 was telling my parents, and a couple years later I told my brother and sister. So I had my entire immediate family in the know by the time I was 21 years old. And honestly, it was like a 4-year journey from there. Like I guess in total about a 6-year journey from 19 to 25 of gradually telling people one at a time. It was just like no rhyme or reason to it. It was kind of just like when the moment felt right to tell certain people, I told them. And I never
Mhm,
had a negative reaction. I was blessed to always have positive reactions and support as I had those conversations with different friends, like starting with my immediate family and then bringing in some friends. And like the big one for me was when I was 25, turning 26. I told my church group at the time. because that's when I was working on a book, and I reached a point just as a writer, as a storyteller, I felt pretty convicted that I want to tell my story in a book format and have that be my first book that I write and put it out there for the world, and then kind of just go from there, because I had lived for so long, 25 years of, again, hiding and dancing around this issue, and just feeling like weird about that. I just wanted to be honest and not have to hide anymore. And so, again, most people aren't going to write a book to come out to the world, but that's what I did.
Yeah.
And after I told my church, my group at my church, like they were the last frontline people that needed to know, before they read about it in a book, because that was kind of my thought process, is I wanted to open up to all those immediate people in my life that I wanted to hear it from me firsthand before they might have read about it in a book or a blog post. So that was
Mhm.
my process, and then I wrote that book when I turned 26, and since then, it's just been in this open thing, but coming out is a weird thing because you kinda have to keep coming out when you meet new people, or when you like,
Yeah.
I was going to a church. I was living in California at the time, and I've since moved to North Carolina, and so it's just like it started over. When I meet new people, I have to basically come out all over again when I'm meeting them, because I guess people will just presume that I'm a straight man if I don't say anything, and so there's like a tension there where I have to keep doing it, which it is what it is. But I'm happy to always share my story because I've appreciated how God's used it.
Yeah, and I think that that's where people come to a sense of alignment where they, alignment and acceptance, and not that it, like, defines your whole identity, but that you use it in a way that kind of brings people together. You brought, like, a whole community of men together. Like, oh my goodness, like, that didn't like, I guess, like, could we say, like, that existed? Maybe, like, you're one of, like, the first people to start something like that. So, could you notice, like, a kind of, like, maybe a lack in the church? Not to say that the church is bad, but, like, a lack in the church where this is an area that people need ministering to, people need fellowship and community. And you're like, why not I just like make that? Which I guess leads me to my second question. Like when you started your other brothers, did you see kind of like, okay, this is where like the church is kind of lacking as far as like ministry and like fellowship and community?
Yeah, for sure. I had a hard journey with the church, and sexuality was part of it, but just being an introverted person and being socially anxious, like it was just hard for me to put myself out there, meet new people, especially just straight people. I found this little world of people that I could resonate with and knew my story, and I knew their story by finding all these guys on the internet who experience what I experience. And so it had often been challenging, yeah, to find new churches and find other community outside of that. And so your Other Brothers largely was started as a refuge from the church, because there's so much confusion and shame and disagreement and conflict, both for me personally, but then other guys who started the community with me and guys who would join the community through those early years. But the cool thing about it, it's like, and I know everyone has their journey with the church, and the church is not perfect. That's the
Mhm.
understatement of the millennium. But yeah, but like to be able to recognize now that we're like a nonprofit ministry and becoming more organized as a ministry, recognizing that we're not a refuge from the church, but that we are the church, and that like we can still have disagreements or work through conflicts and have things that feel separating, but that there's a lot more that unites us than separates us. And I know I've experienced that at the church that I go to here in Asheville, but then I know so many guys in our community have reached points of growth and maturity with their churches and conversations with their groups that they're in, and pastors and other friends. And I don't know, it's a beautiful thing when we can simultaneously have this place where we can be separate and have our kind of in-house conversations and support for one another as people going through the same thing together, but then also not stay there and also be interconnected with the church, and to be like the duality of our name, Your Other Brothers. There, from the beginning, it was named that for two specific reasons. Like the first reason is as like a beacon to other gay and SSA men, to be like, we are your other brothers. You're not alone. You have other
Mhm.
people that are walking through this. Because I thought for 19 years or 20 something years that I was the only Christian that experienced same sex attraction. And so to be able to let other believers know definitively, you are not alone. We are right there with you. We are your other brothers. But then simultaneous to that, we are also like a beacon to the church, letting the church know that LGBT plus people don't just exist like out there, like on the streets
Yeah.
or on in the parades and on the TV shows or whatever, no,
Yeah.
they're in the pews with you, like, if 10% or whatever the percentage is of humanity, if they experience some form of same-sex attraction, whether they're gay or bi or pan or, any number of identifications, like, if it's 10%, if it's 5%, if it's 1%, like, there's somebody in this church
Yeah.
that is experiencing that. It's just statistically a fact, and so just letting the church know that we're your other brothers too. We're not out there. We are in here with you. And that's become more true and obvious in recent years as we've become more ministry focused. But that is the call that we're both distinct from the church, but then also integral with the church. And so I love that duality of being your other brothers and also now your other sisters with the women's community that we've formed.
That's so amazing. I was gonna say, like, talk about the church for a second. Like, is it like harder for, I guess, for believers that do struggle with SSA or identify as gay to feel maybe a part of a church or welcomed into the church? Maybe it's because like, well, so Peter Volk was talking about like the church's emphasis on marriage and people that have SSA don't may not feel like, okay, where's my community? So I'm trying to like, I guess like I'm asking like, what are the different reasons that someone may or may not feel welcomed in the church?
This is something I think the church is going to have to, if they're not already thinking about solutions or things to do, like I think this is something that should be at the top of people's priority lists because I'm a big nerd when it comes to demographics and social changes. And like
Mhm.
there was a book written, I think it's just called Generations, and it was talking about all the different generations and their relationships with technology. Like,
I think I have that
yeah,
book
it's so good. I
somewhere in here.
recommend it. I forget the author, but
It's
it's
probably
like
in the class.
so thorough. It talks about boomers and Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Zers, and then this like the new generations that are
Gen
coming
Alpha.
up, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, all these other new groups that are coming up in the relationship with technology. Anyway, it was like really fascinated. Like I'm so fascinated with Gen Z because I still think I'm
Mhm.
young. I'm a millennial, but
Yeah.
I'm not at the bottom of the totem pole anymore. There's definitively another generation as adults and then another generation as children below them. So I'm fascinated with Gen Z as these young adults who are in their
Gen Z,
20s.
yay.
Yeah, shout out to Gen Z. But, like, the fact that and this just keeps carrying over the trend from millennials to Gen Xers, like, people are getting married later and later and later. If they
Yeah.
get married at all, people are having sex later and later and later, if they're having sex at all. And, like, what is the church gonna do with that? Because it used to be like, my grandma got married at 18.
Oh my
That's not
gosh.
happening. That's not
Yeah, that's
happening
the same
anymore.
here.
I mean, in rare instances, maybe people are getting married young, but, like, by and large, people today are just like delaying this, whether for whatever reason, for educational reasons, for financial reasons. Technology, social media has done this weird thing with the way kids, or not
So
kids,
much
but
has
young adults interact. So, what does the church do with that? What does the church do with previously the way they've operated is like you get married young, you have kids, you create the children's ministry, and you have married groups and married ministry, and it's like all of a sudden now you have all these single people running around. What do you do with all these single people if they're not getting married to each other? Like, what do we do with them? And so it bleeds into LGBT matters and people who, like me, I believe I will be single the rest of my life. So what do you do with me? What do you do with all these other Gen Zers and probably a bunch of Gen Alpha, Gen Beta people coming up too? Like, what do you do with those people if they're not going to get married or if they're getting married significantly later than what previous generations have been accustomed to? So this is something the church has gotta work
my
through. Like, what do you
gosh,
do?
that's such
I hope
you just pointed to
I
something
hope they
so,
are.
like yeah, oh my gosh. I don't know any married people, well, except for my parents and, like, their generation, like
Uh-huh.
Gen X, like, my parents married, I think, like, in 2000, so they were, like, 29 or whatever, and then I happened, and then so I think yeah, you mentioned something important because, my grandparents and great-grandparents, like, got married, like, when they were my age, like, 20, 21. And that was just the norm back then, but now, like, most of Gen Z or people that I know, like, no one's married, and the fascinating thing about it is and I don't really see a lot of people dating either. The fascinating thing about that is that I don't know if it's just, like, a Gen Z thing, but, like, we at least within my community and my friends, like, prioritize friendship a lot. Like, friendship is kind of our family, that is our community. So much so, like okay, like, currently I'm in college, and, like, even outside of, like, the context of college, now that it's summer, we're not seeing each other, like, every day. So now, like, we make like, everybody's super intentional. I don't know what it is about this year specifically, but all my friends have been trying to make me more social, and everybody's been super, like, intentional about hanging out and, like, meeting up. Like, it's, like, every weekend that we've been meeting up, and that's, like, a blessing, but also it kind of points to maybe, like, the sociological context of Gen Z, like, we're prioritizing different forms of connection, and I guess, yeah, like, how does the church kind of integrate that, you know, marriage isn't ever marriage isn't for everyone. People are marrying at different stages in life. The traditional nuclear family isn't really a thing anymore. Did you
Yeah.
was it you that made a I don't know who made a post about, like, the, like, nuclear family month. Was it you that did that, or was it someone else? Maybe it
Nothing's
was
coming to
someone else.
mind. Yeah, it might have been someone else,
Wait, no,
but
I think it was someone else that made, like, a post about, like, okay, nuclear family month, like, as against Pride month.
right, right.
I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I have seen that.
Yeah.
Basically, the argument to that, what I would argue against that is like basically every month is nuclear family month. Is it not? Especially in the church.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the nuclear family, you are right in the majority where everyone else is, but pretty much, or a good chunk of church going people are. So that's always yeah. There's always like all those things like why don't we have a White History Month or why don't we have a
Okay.
man month or something? I was like, well, I mean, pretty much any day is pretty much you get to experience life in the majority. That's a blessing for you. So something else I was gonna say though about Gen Zers and probably generations coming up too. It's like a greater proportion of them not only are staying single but are also identifying as LGBT. Like I don't know, there's
Yeah.
some stats out there that say it could be like 20%, it could be 40%, it could be up to half. Like people maybe if they're not fully identifying as gay, like at least identifying as bi or pan or some combination of sexuality. So like so that's the other element of it too. It's like LGBT issues aren't going away. If anything,
Yeah.
they're becoming just more accepted and more, which is simultaneously good and challenging. Like it's good that people are just becoming more open to talk about it. If you're attracted to the same sex, there's not as much shame attached to that today as there was 50 years ago. By and large, there's unique cases to that certainly, but by and large, you can talk about it more. There's so much more comfort with talking about it and identifying with it. And then, yeah, what does the church do with that? Because yeah, their
It's
church is only getting older and older and older, the old ways of doing things, and so I hope that the church is able to adapt to this new climate and not changing theological positions, but just being able to
yeah.
approach and empathize with people and their experience instead of just telling them to go away or shove it or
Yeah.
not talk about it, etc.
Because really that's when the church becomes I feel like it becomes more bigger if we, like, look at the community around us and look at the people and this isn't like you said, this isn't going on outside of the church, this is inside the church. So, if, like, a huge chunk of people are, navigating questions about faith and identity and sexuality, they wanna come to the church, but if the church doesn't have a way to minister to those people, then they might feel, "Okay, maybe I don't feel welcome here." And that's not, like I don't know if you've witnessed that, like, in the church, but I feel like that's something that could be sort of like a hole in the church where we're not even having, like, conversations of, "Okay, you can bring your questions here, and we can navigate them together, no matter how messy that looks." I think that's what people are really craving.
Yeah. If that's not what the church is for, what is it? What is it for? Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to hope that the church is the best place, the first place and the best place that any person, believer or otherwise, could go to wrestle with things and be included and welcomed and not pushed away. Like that's my hope for the church at large and for local iterations of the church.
Yeah. I think I had a question, then it left me. So let me let me just oh yeah, I got it. So what do believers and Christians what do you sometimes like whether they're straight or people in general, what do people misunderstand about Pride Month and misunderstand about sexuality?
I think the biggest misunderstanding, going back to where we were at the top of the conversation, is just like where's the redeemable in this, or misunderstanding the definition of pride. Because I love like there's so many like Christian thinkers and scholars through the years, like C.S. Lewis and Augustine, like they talked about pride as being the root of all the sins because it's a self-righteous sin where you're like
Mm,
blind. Essentially, like you're the essence of it, the crux of it is that you're blinded. Like when you're prideful, you don't even see that you're sinning. You don't even see that you're going against God. I mean, that's like when you look to Lucifer, who became Satan, like his sin was pride, thinking that he was, if not better than God, at least equal to God and the angels that fell with him. Like there was the sin of pride where they couldn't even see their own sin. And I think there is the misconception with Christians that that's what LGBT people are doing when they're parading in the streets or they're wearing the rainbow flags or waving
Yeah.
them or wearing them or some combination of those, is that they don't even see their sin. And so, what I would encourage Christians to do is, again, to take a step back. Well, A, look at the log in your own eye before you take a look at the speck
Yeah.
in someone else's eye, like to apply that,
Yeah.
the precept of Jesus there. Because Lord knows, I'm not going to go on a rant about this, but I feel like there are so many churches, church leaders, ministry leaders that, they're railing against LGBT people or this issue and that issue. And they don't even see the sin in their own heart or in their
Yeah.
own
I've
congregations, and so that
I
would be my
read,
encouragement for the church.
oh wait, I have it right here. I don't know if you read this book. I read this like a long time ago. Here it is.
I do, I have that on my bookshelf, A Bigger World Yet.
And then what the author mentions is that like sometimes the church can, or people in general can highlight, okay, homosexuality as like this big sin, and then they're just like comparing, they're not even they're it's kind of like comparing the sin and then treating other things as like, okay, that's fine. But this right here, this is like a whole huge thing. And I think what you mentioned of just looking at people's looking at your own motives and asking God to check your heart when we're even addressing pride, because sometimes people can get into this mindset of like, oh my gosh, this is a sin, 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 when people don't know that, okay, like this person may identify a certain way or they may have an orientation or attraction, but that itself isn't a sin.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basic education, like, it's part of my ministry duties is, like, helping educate the church and, like, making that distinction between a gay identity or a queer identity, just defining it by the orientation, like the fact that I'm only attracted to men, I've never been attracted to women. Like, how do I use words to describe that to people? Like,
Yeah.
the most convenient word to use is gay, because gay meaning attracted to men. But then I also recognize, language has all kinds of limitations and challenges. Like, if then you're also going to attach meaning to that word and say, oh, that means I'm sleeping around with other men,
Yeah, that's
or I'm
what people assume.
actively dating men, or I wanna get married to a man one day, like I don't. I am just using that word to define my orientation exclusively toward men, but so many people in the church will then attach all these other sub definitions to it, and so, it's the challenge of it. It's like, okay, if I don't use the word gay, do I use the phrase same-sex attracted?
Yeah, and
Like,
I think you made a
that's
video on that.
good. Yeah, it's like that explains it to some degree, but then it also has connotations with reparative therapy and trying to change
Yeah,
it
oh my
and,
gosh.
like, making a lesser deal of it than it actually is. Because I think there is a tendency when I say I'm same-sex attracted or I just have same-sex attraction, like I have it, like it's like a shirt in my suitcase that I can take out if I want. Like, I have it today, but I can get rid of it tomorrow, but I can't. It's like it's with me. I I
Yeah,
I am, so I'm not like identifying with it in the sense that I'm putting it above my identity in Jesus. Like, of course I'm
yeah,
not. Like, people in the church and people outside the church for that matter. We want to put things in boxes and quick and easy
mhm,
explanations. And so, like, again, I encourage anyone out there, whether it's with sexuality, with gender identity, with any complicated issue, like, what if it's not as easy as just saying it is this, it isn't that? Like, what if
yeah,
there's more to it than that? And so I always preferred saying gay or queer, even though I recognize the limitations of that language, because I would rather translate that this is something that is ongoing and not going anywhere, versus
mhm,
saying it's something I can choose to not do if I wanted to, or I could let go of,
yeah,
or if I had a realistic expectation that it would change, which I don't. At 39 years old, I don't expect that. So that's like the flip side of the terms and language, but just hoping to educate the church and encourage the church to, like, enter into that. If it's not something that can be easily put into a box, are you willing to sit with somebody in the tension of this state that they're in?
yeah, I think when it comes down to that, I think I commented on your videos, like, yeah, the word like, if the word same-sex attraction, like, that is a mouthful to even say,
And it's so
like,
many syllables.
and
Yeah, yeah.
so,
When you
like,
could just
I
say
can
gay.
like, yeah, just saying gay, but I think, yeah, that even though the word gay has so many, like, connotations to it, whether, like, negative or just like, I hear, like, okay, so I go to like, I do a little bit of ministry with kids, and like some of the counselors, like I'm surprised, but like some of the counselors will say like something is gay, but not like the actual what the meaning is. And I've I've heard it growing up. I've heard the terms gay, but I think sometimes like for me personally, I feel like it's disrespectful, even though I'm not gay. I feel like it's disrespectful to just throw that term around because, someone this is like someone might identify as that to help you understand their experience. Because I think that even the common language of gay over same sex attraction helps people more because people use the term gay more. Like I don't people aren't like unless they're maybe like in your other brothers or like side B, don't use the term same sex attraction just like on a whim. I feel like people use the term gay more, but that term helps people to understand, okay, this is my experience. But I think still too, people like feel okay. There's so many like, and I talked to Brian about this. There's so many things attached to that. Like people think, okay, if you're gay, then you're like a prostitute or you're like out just you're doing a whole
Cruising.
lot of like
Mhm.
debaucherous things. But like when it comes down to it, and this is why I'm so thankful that your other brothers exist, is what it comes down to is that these are just like just normal people, and we're putting people in these like boxes of like if you're gay, then that means you're doing all these things. You're doing all these like abomination things.
Yeah, yeah. And language is so cool, like, I'm an English major and I love words, and so, like, I love the language of side B. Side, I mean,
I
using
like
the
it too.
terminology of sides can be a little, like, contentious if it's, like, one side versus another side, so maybe I don't love, like, the side language, but as far as, like, Bs, like, it's so fun to see, like, people with little bee emojis in their social media profiles, like, I use a bee emoji in my social media profile because it's kind of a nod to the side B theology of where I stand with
Mhm.
faith and sexuality, and, like, side B, or if you just say bees, like, that's becoming more common as people just calling one another bees, like, there's kind of this nice new evolution of words that are happening where, okay, now it's not gay or SSA anymore. If it's side B or Bs, like, are we allowed to use that? Can we say that? And it doesn't have the baggage of either gay or SSA, but it's kind of this new term, this new word that's formed that can represent the traditional understanding and belief about sexuality and marriage, but then also an authenticity about someone's experience of sexuality. Like who knows? Maybe that's the new term, or maybe there's going to be another new term that develops in the
Yeah,
next 20,
who
30,
knows?
50 years. But so I'm down to like be adaptable and change words
Yeah.
as it makes sense to do so. But like as of now, gay or queer is like the quickest, easiest way to describe my orientation. And again, the church has to like reckon with that. Like how does the church become relevant in this conversation as more and more people are identifying as LGBTQ? Like what do you do with that?
Yeah, especially, like, in the Gen Z generation, like, a lot of my friends, are part of the LGBTQ
Mhm.
community, and, I don't know, like, how it was, like, growing up, like, for millennials, but that's just, like, the norm. If you're, like, as growing up in Gen Z, and really it's just whether you identify a part of that community or not, really, r like you said, it's just how is the church gonna meet these people where they are, and I think it's so important, like, it's becoming a much more relevant thing in today's, day because it's not this isn't we're not living, like, in the '50s where it was just, like, the mom, dad, and children. We're, dealing with people and just communities that are identifying, um, in, like, sort of like the no like, non-traditional identities that it might be, like, harder for maybe, like, older members of the church to reckon with because it's not their experience of what they grew up with. So, really, the truth of the matter is, you know, God is God throughout the generations and, throughout history, but how are we meeting people where they are? And I think people are, like, afraid of, like, affirming sin or affirming things if
Right, right.
we are meeting people where they are in terms of their identity. But the harder question is, well, how do we meet people where they are in terms of their identity and be loving and ministering to them and still like, okay, I don't affirm like that, but how are we loving? So I think that's like the harder question that the church
Mhm.
just needs to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not trying to be holier than thou because I have to examine my own heart when I say what I'm about to say, but it's like to just be in relationship with affirming people, whether they have a faith identity or not. If they do have
Mhm.
a faith identity and they follow Jesus, but they feel like it's okay to date someone of the same sex or have sex with them or marry them or have kids with them, can we still be in relationship with them and
Yeah.
not feel like this judgment from God, like that we're doing it wrong, that we need to be preaching at them constantly, or we need to like
That's
it's up to us to save them or change their minds. Like
no.
what if God has like let us off the hook and it's like it's up to the Holy Spirit to convict? Guess what? Like we as humans cannot convict other people. That is the power of Holy
We're not
Spirit
the Holy
working.
Spirit.
We are not Holy Spirit, and that was, like, such a release of pressure to be like, I can just be in relationship with people who disagree with me." Again, beyond issues of sexuality, like my neighbor, my atheist neighbor down the street or whoever, somebody at my job or someone at my school, like, I can be in a relationship with them without this need to save them and, like, let the Holy Spirit do that. Like, and if he wants to use my relationship with them as part of the process to bring them to him, great, that's awesome, but, like, what if that wasn't on me? What if it was just my
Yeah.
job to love my neighbor and to follow Jesus as I feel like he's leading me to do? Like, I think that's just such a it's easier said than done for a lot of Christians, but, like, what if it were that easy to just relate with people and we don't have to worry about changing people's minds or changing people's hearts and let God do that himself? Like, I just think the world would be such a better place, and I know I'm trying to apply that to my own life too, so I don't come from a place of complete victory over that, but that's such a that's a crazy concept that Jesus himself interacted with however many dozens and hundreds of people throughout his ministry, and how many people just didn't get it, didn't get him, and even wanted him dead at every turn, you know? Like, if Jesus himself couldn't save everyone, then I certainly can't.
Like,
So, yeah,
when it's not looking at people, okay, as just like a checkbox, like, I'm just gonna preach to this person, preach to that person, but Jesus did relational ministry, like, he was in the lives of his disciples and the people around him. So I think that's a little bit of something that we miss in the church today, like, okay, people are not like, we're not just checking people off, like, we're building community with people, and really we just need to be, like, equipped to how to build relationships, not just with, like, people that identify in the LGBTQ community, but also just people in general. Like, we need equipping of how to develop relationships with people that are completely different than us, like even just atheists or people of different like religious backgrounds. I think that's something that we just need like equipping on.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, again, I'm so happy. I can't believe it's like 2 p.m. Doesn't feel like this like it's
Such a good combo.
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
good convo. I'm glad that you came back on. I like to have you on in the future. I like you to meet my co-hosts, Alex and Lucas and Jacob as
that'd
well.
be
I like for
fun.
you to yeah, I like for you to
Yeah.
meet them. But yeah, this was like so awesome. I'm glad that we got to talk again, and I will be commenting on your videos like I usually do.
Keep commenting, keep stirring the algorithm. I appreciate your feedback, Micah. It's special to hear from people who just have a curious, empathetic heart like yours, but then just someone else that's also creating content like you are. Like it's cool. It's cool to connect with someone like that. So thanks for connecting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I am and also, like, the blogs too, blogs have been good. I read
Mm.
Brian's blog, it was eye-opening too, so anything like, a lot of the stuff on there is just very eye-opening for me. Yeah, so
Yeah. We're all about opening eyes, maybe opening some hearts along the way. So yeah, appreciate your feedback.
yeah, so have fun in your are you going to a trip to Ohio? Columbus?
I am
Or
going
yeah,
to
where are you going?
Revoice, which is for those that don't know, Revoice is the largest side B gathering, I think, in the world. I think I can say that. Yeah, it'd be like 6, 7, 800 people there. Most of whom will identify similarly to me. But then increasingly, what I've noticed the last few years, a lot more pastors and moms and dads and friends, just people wanting to learn more about faith and sexuality, also attending these conferences. So looking forward to connecting with hopefully a lot of awesome people this year at the Revoice conference.
That's awesome. Maybe maybe I think of attending in the future.
Absolutely, that'd be fun. It'd
Yeah.
be fun to see you there.
Well, I will see you later. Thank you for being on. And listeners, don't forget to subscribe and follow Men's Culture on Instagram and YouTube. And also go check out Tom's content on yourotherbrothers.com, or is it .org? Is
It's
it
either
.org?
one.
Okay.
I say .org now, but yourotherbrothers.com will take you there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Check out his reels. His reels are super eye opening. I love his reels. So
I appreciate it, Micah. Always a pleasure.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well.